The Staff of the Dead holds a high status in the PvP community, with the Toxic variant boasting the highest magic bonus in-game, a magic damage boosting effect, and the passive ability to cause your opponent to slowly die from venom. Alongside its evil origins, it certainly makes a fine fit for those who wish to take down other players. But to understand what makes the Staff of the Dead so powerful, we need to take a trip through history. What better place to start our journey than Varrock Museum? The museum holds some interesting artifacts that, providing you've done the quests for and spoken to the historian, can be seen on display with some informative material about each specific piece. There is one item, however, that we should be paying close attention to, which may end up bearing more relevance to the existence of the Staff of the Dead than first seems. This is the Staff of Armadyl, not to be confused with the Armadyl Battle Staff from RuneScape 3. First, let's read the in-game description. This is a replica of the Staff of Armadyl, made from descriptions given to us by a brave adventurer. It was this staff, wielded by Zamorak, which killed the god Zaros and cursed all those who aided this treacherous deed. It would seem that it was around this time that Zamorak ascended to godhood. Not much is known of what happened to the staff afterwards, until its recent discovery. Armadyl is said to be a god whom was worshipped during the Second and Third Ages, though he does not seem to have much of a following in modern times. The Staff of Armadyl is one of the 12 Elder artifacts created by the Elder Gods. These artifacts are a class of immensely powerful and divine items that were crafted to better shape the gods' creations in their quest to create a perfect world. After they succeeded in creating the perfect world, named Gielinor, the Elder Gods abandoned their works for an unknown reason, leaving behind their artifacts on the worlds where they were last used. The Staff of Armadyl was one of many to be left behind on Gielinor. After the mysterious departure of the Elder Gods, various mortals searched for and managed to obtain some of these artifacts. It was known that those who possess an Elder artifact themselves shall become a god. Guthix was one of these young gods that wanted to use his newly found power for good and for balance. He kept most of the artifacts hidden in fear for their danger. He brought life to the world of Gielinor and finished off the perfect world that the Elder Gods had once created. With the peace and life on the lands, Guthix fell into a deep sleep beneath the earth, not to be seen again for many millennia. It was throughout this Second Age that many young gods like Saradomin and Zaros found home in Gielinor in their search for the artifacts. With them came some of their most trusted generals and worshippers. Some of the occupants of Gielinor started worshipping these gods also. During this Second Age, Armadyl obtained the staff by unknown means. He crafted the orb atop the staff, and that's where the name we hear today comes from. Already a god himself, Armadyl had the staff hidden away in an underground temple, the Temple of Ikov, and that was its resting place for many years. It's at this point in our story we meet Zamorak, a Mahadrat general of Zaros. It's known that Zamorak wanted to betray and overpower Zaros to ascend to godhood himself, but he lacked the power in his current mortal form. After hearing of a powerful staff wanting to be sold, he met up with a thief named Renard in an old tavern for some anonymous black market dealings. With a god-slaying staff now in his possession, Zamorak could set his plans for rebellion against the empty Lord Zaros into motion. However, an undercover Saradomin spy by the name of Linissa caught ear of this purchase. Fearing its danger and the chance of her being uncovered, sent a message to her superior in rank, Dalek. Dalek wanted Saradomin to prosper, and hearing that the rival of his lord Saradomin, Zaros, may fall to a rebellion, he decided not to pass on the message of the staff's whereabouts to Saradomin. Instead, he cast a spell on the Staff of Armadyl to aid Zamorak. This spell would conceal the staff until the last moment when Zaros could be killed. His thinking was that if Zaros fell, Saradomin could easily rise to power without competition, but he was unknowing of Zamorak's future to come. Zamorak's rebellious plans were put into action, and under the pretense that they were to discuss war plans against Saradomin, Zamorak and his forces were invited into Zaros' fortress. Amongst the followers of Zamorak was a Tutsaroth tribe of demons. These Avernic demons were considered slave soldiers in the demon world, and were looked down upon by the Chthonian nobles. Zaros, however, managed to trick the Chthonians into taking 12 legions of Avernic troops back to Ginnanor. They were to live a life of luxury, but to fight for Zaros when needed. These demons were later to become the backbone of Zamorak's army in the battles of the God Wars, led by the general Kirill Tutsaroth. Once inside Zaros' fortress, Zamorak and his forces launched their assault, and with the bodyguards of Zaros distracted, Zamorak unsheathed the Staff of Armadyl and plunged it into the body of Zaros. After a grueling duel between the two, Zaros grabbed Zamorak by the throat, stumbling from his wounds, impaling Zamorak with the staff. The staff drew the power and the life out of Zaros, transferring it into the body of Zamorak, who was now more powerful than ever before. That, however, was not the end of Zaros. He was an incredibly powerful god, powerful enough that he could abandon his land-walking form to avoid being killed completely. While his spirit was cast away for safety to a different plane of existence, he cast a curse on those responsible for his fall. Shortly after Zaros' betrayal, the other gods appeared and immediately banished Zamorak from Ginnanor. This banishment didn't stop him, and he returned soon after as a fully fledged god himself, declaring war on Saradomin. This marked the beginning of the infamous God Wars, which lasted nearly 4,000 years. Now you might be left wondering what happened to the Staff of Armadyl after Zaros fell and Zamorak was banished. Armadyl once again retrieved the staff and placed it back into the Temple of Ikov, this time closely protected by the Guardians of Armadyl, and this is where the staff remained until the 5th Age, our current age, hidden and protected, until you, the player, get involved during the Temple of Ikov quest. The God Wars were unimaginably catastrophic, covering the entirety of the Third Age and nearly bringing Ginnanor as we know it to an end. As the war escalated, other gods became involved. Ginnanor was in chaos. At this point in time, gods could directly interact with the world. This caused destruction far beyond any that had been seen before or seen since. During this 4,000-year-long endeavour, countless civilizations, races, and animal species disappeared. Many were wiped out completely, while others took refuge or underwent drastic changes just to try and survive. The world was mutated. Once healthy lands were ruined or reformed. Most of these changes were so devastating that they continue to affect Ginnanor today. The entire world was on the brink of destruction when Guthix awoke from his sleep. He found the world he left peaceful and perfect in utter ruin. He was so enraged that he demanded the wars stop immediately and that the gods only hold power through their followers on Ginnanor. The gods left the world following Guthix's banishment, although they continued to watch over it, hearing the prayers of their faithful worshippers. Guthix then created the Edict, a physical and powerful barrier that would stop any god from directly interfering with the world. The Edicts of Guthix were also there to prevent mass extinction and any one race causing calamity. The wilderness, previously known as the land of Verinthri, is basically unchanged today since the wars ended. In fact, it's so desolate, you'll often find players there battling it out to the death. Not much survived from the God Wars era. There were no permanent structures, as the land was ever changing from the constant battles that plagued the surface. One thing that archaeologists have found, however, is armour and a few pieces of weaponry. Third Age armour was often used in the God Wars. It was far stronger than most armours we have today, which is why we keep finding it almost completely unscathed. Its resilience made it the equipment of choice for those that could create it. What it was made from depends on the class of armour. We have white dragonhide, enchanted silk, and enchanted silver, but where this armour came from is unknown. The knowledge of how to create such armour was lost long ago, and the armour was made so well that it can still be used today. It's highly prized among those with the funds or the skills to obtain it. It wasn't until a few years ago that a massive cavern that had been frozen for eons began to thaw out due to the tectonic movements in the wilderness. This cavern was the site of one of the God War's last battles, and the monsters within have not realised that the God Wars are over. Still battling it out today, players are able to explore this area, and although hundreds of monsters and warriors, mages, are fighting for their gods with no end in sight, this battle pales in comparison to the bloody carnage that was the Third Age. Some of the God War's most notorious commanders and generals can be found within this dungeon, and should you take them on and win, you yourself could be rewarded with some high-end equipment once used in the God Wars. Our interest in the staff, however, pushes us towards Kiril Tutsaroth, Zamorak's leading general in the God Wars. We know that if defeated, a potential reward is the Staff of the Dead, but there is no mention of these staffs in the God Wars. So who or what was behind their creation? Was it perhaps a copycat staff, mimicking the effects of the Staff of Armadyl, or was it a new weapon in itself that didn't get the chance to see action before the war ended? Little to nothing is known, but with melee stats comparable to that of a dragon longsword, the speed of a whip, it's certainly not a weapon to ignore at close range. And now we're aware of the deadly close quarters capability of the Staff of Armadyl, piercing the body of a god. Perhaps these two weapons are closer related than first thought. What we do know about the Staff of the Dead is that its power grants the wielder a 15% boost to magic damage. It stores the uncommon capability to prevent runes being used for each cast, and with humans getting their hands on the staff, a small amount of customization has begun to appear. With the addition of Saradomin's Light, it blocks the user from the staff's evil origins and allows you to cast Saradomin's Strike rather than the Zamorak God spell, as well as quite a striking visual change. Alternatively, plucking a fang from the jaws of Zulrah allows you to craft a toxic Staff of the Dead. The venom from the fang seeping its way through the staff allows the one in possession to unleash the power of the venom on their enemies. So the Staff of the Dead's origin, creator and use remains unknown. Perhaps crafted by a Zamorak mage inspired by the stories of the Staff of Armadyl, or maybe brought to the land of Ginnanor by the Elder Demons, explaining why Kiril carries one. Maybe it's best left a mystery and its true power left undiscovered. But there is one final piece to this Staff of the Dead puzzle. There is a single NPC that wields the Staff of the Dead, the Ghost of Necroverus. He can be found just outside Port Phasmatis. A once priest and mage, he essentially killed the entire port town of Phasmatis and planned to do very evil things with his newly found army of the dead. However, that plan is put to an abrupt end with the help of those that have completed the Ghosts Ahoy quest. It's never explained how he managed to get this staff, and I don't think he's willing to talk, but nonetheless, this brings us to the current day. The year is now 169, we are in the 5th age, civilization is booming, life is thriving, and the lands are recuperating. But there are wizards, worried that the most powerful runes they had once used to protect the kingdoms are running low. The enemies of Misthalin, Asgarnia and Kandarin are beginning to find footholds in their lands again, and the darkness seems to be leaking into Ginnanor once more. To prevent the collapse of civilization once again, new heroes must be found. And in the next video, we follow our intrepid hero into the depths of the wilderness to fight those forces of evil, or maybe just those players involved, with his trusted Staff of the Dead.